It's not too common of an occurrence, but occasionally it does come up. So I'm going to briefly touch on being able to change the calculations for control limits, rules, and various things like that. So all those are up at the enterprise um, production item, and you click the quality tab, and they're all listed here. So we see our control limits, our out of control signals, those are also referred to as rules, our intervals, and miscellaneous other calculations. So when Ignition SBC module first starts up, it looks to see if there are any um, control limits that exist in the project. And if they're not, it pre-populates them with the default ones. So here we see X bar upper control limit. And we can come in here and give it a name and what kind it is. Those are all predetermined. You need to have your control limits calculate by the type of control chart because the calculations actually change depending on the control chart. So in this case, it's X bar upper control limit. And then by clicking on the script button here, we will get the script that is used anytime that control limit is calculated. So it could be calculated when it's automatically determining if there's a rule violation. It can be calculated when you show a control chart or you just request some SPC data out of the system that you're going to include in a report or some other use for it. It will come here and run this script to calculate the X bar upper control limit. And I'm not going to go into details of how it's completely done. But you have access to all the data that, all the sample data that is there, the X bar range values, and you can go through and calculate sums. This is fairly well documented. And then you can set event.set control limit to a value. Another example is spec limit. So you can add new spec limits in here if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. This is an X bar lower spec limit, and it's X bar other, and the script is blank because you just set it, and it's a hard limit. You don't want to produce product outside of that limit, and there's no calculation behind the scenes. So whatever you set it to, it just gets set to that, and it's used that way versus calculating it behind the scenes. If we take a look at control limits, same way, you give it a name, what type of chart it applies to, your calculation script, look back period, how, if you want to get 1 hour of data and then evaluate it, or 10 minutes or what have you, what color you want to show up on the chart, and what shape you want to show up in the control charts. And when we get into the control charts, we'll see more on that. So we predefine or pre-populate the rules also, and then you can add to those if you have a custom rule or change existing ones. Intervals work the same way. So we see pre-populated intervals here. So every value change, every X value change. So if you wanted to create a sample every 100th value or schedule a sample, you could. So intervals are used for both scheduling samples where the operator or lab technician is going to be manually entering data. It will schedule it and remind them that they need to enter data and take a sample. But they also are used for automatically collecting data. So if every shift change we want to automatically take a reading and create sample from that, we can, or every so many minutes we can do that as well. So if I take a look at this, and you can add your own samples and create new ones, and you can refer to tags inside your script here to create samples. If we take a look at this, we have a number of things that are available. I forget how many different data items here, but seconds since last sample scheduled, We also have things like second since last schedule taken, all kinds of things like that. But basically in this script, if you put this line in there, set create sample in a 1, it will schedule or create the sample. The last items are really not touched too much. They have to do with process capability chart and process performance chart and the calculations used to calculate the CP and the CPK and those different values. You can come in and modify those if you want. And not really commonly touched. The industry kind of has a set formula that is used for those. So that's an overview of how you can go in here and change these scripts, and you really don't need to, but when you do, it's very important that you have a way to do it, and this is how it is done.